how about this? Blast from the past. As soon as Kevin got hired, I heard from Abe, and I think it was like the first time in 3 years that I heard from him. And then he's like, you got a minute to talk about Kevin? And I'm like, yeah, sure. He goes, no, I mean like right now, this second. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I got you. What you want to know? So he called, and we have a little conversation about Kev and how bored out of their mind they're going to be during his press conferences. Because you know what? They just got to coach better.
Well, Abe is going to join us at 8:20 because the Stefanski hire is not going well in some circles in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I want to delve into that because I've also seen a racial element attached to that. And again, no better place and no better time than on MLK Day with two white guys in the studio to talk about that than right here as we bring on another white guy in Abe Gordon.
There's a meme going around right
I've
now.
I've seen a few.
Of Kevin wearing a lot of jewelry, I believe it.
Blinged out. Yeah.
Blinged out. That's the term I was looking for. Kevin totally blinged out in Falcons gear. You know what's really freaky is the last couple of weeks of the season, I made sure I took pictures of the coordinators and Kevin Stefanski so we had them for our social media and stuff like that. So just for fun, a couple weeks ago when I was banging the drum for John Harbaugh, just trying to will an interview into existence, I grabbed a John Harbaugh picture and I threw it through AI to have it converted from Ravens gear into Browns gear.
Yeah.
Looks spectacular. So I took one of my Kevin Stefanski photos that I took in Berea and had Kevin changed into Falcons gear. Really freaky how clean it came out. Really, really freaky. Like, I'm zooming in, like looking for pixelation and
see, this is the difference. This is how you know Daryl's professional. While all you perverts are at home doing God knows what on AI to transform the pictures you guys have of either celebrities or people in your life, you weirdos. Daryl is just using it for sports purposes in an ethical way. That's the difference when it comes to Daryl Ryder.
And so I actually put it out there after, he got hired. And it's got the Falcons backdrop, the Falcons Mike flag, and he's in the Falcons gear. I'm like, this is crazy how clean it looks. But you know what? I'm actually happy for Kevin. I really never had an axe to grind. I did feel like it was time for a change.
Yeah, they were terrible the last 2 years.
People were coming at me on social media because I, said that I was happy for Kevin. Well, you ran him out of town. You were excited for that firing. No, I wasn't excited for the firing. I'm never excited for firings. It's just, it was time. He was here 6 years. I think it had run its course with him and Andrew. And in fact, I thought Andrew should have been shown the door as well. I was very clear about that. And that's nothing personal against Andrew. I just don't think Andrew did a bang-up job the last couple of years either, outside of this past year. Because to me, the previous 3-4 years are why the Browns are in the position that they're in. And you and I are having the conversation this morning about putting this offense back together. The defense was good enough to be able to play this past weekend, and you brought up the spectacular defensive performances throughout the divisional round and why the Browns would have fit seamlessly into this particular playoff picture. But Andrew was pretty derelict when it came to the offensive side of the football.
It's time to move on, and I know we'll get into this later in the show, I also wouldn't be shocked with some of the offensive weapons they have in Atlanta that he hits the ground running to start out. He's got to change some things.
I have a bold prediction. Falcons are going to make the playoffs, and he's going to be coach of the year for the third time.
Come on, Daryl. A third time. You got to be pretty special to win it a third time, right?
You know what? Just saying.
You got to have a very, very – you can't just be like, we turned the Falcons around to a 9-win team in that division. It's got to be really, really good for him to.
It is a regular season award, and Bijan Robinson is a combination of Nick Chubb
awesome.
And Kareem Hunt.
He catches the ball in the backfield too.
He helped me take a blowtorch to afternoon drive in the Fantasy Football League this year.
And that was without Kevin Stefanski.
That was without Kevin.
Yeah. Kevin's got to leave him on the field.
That was with me coaching the team.
Yeah, he's got to leave him on the field on 2-point conversions, right? This time, like we all understand that. Daryl, I have been flabbergasted, stunned, shocked. Can a jaw be agape or is it mouth agape? I think the mouth is agape.
Jaw on the floor.
The jaw is on the floor and the mouth is agape on some of the polling that I've seen all the great Browns blogs and podcasts and I've kind of scoured. I've done all the market research on this. When people are pressed on how you feel about all these candidates, the one they seem to like the most is the guy that's had the least amount of responsibility and experience. Grant Udinski. You didn't know about him 2 weeks ago.
I thought you were going to say Nate Shieldhouse.
I've seen more on, again, it's so funny how this works.
He basically takes Sean McVay's vision and he computerizes it for him and draws it up for him. and so it's ready to be presented in the team meeting.
And look, I said I would be open-minded because nobody knew, at least the casual fan, people in the league knew. Casual fans didn't know about Mike Tomlin before he got hired. He looked like he had no business with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
John Harbaugh was a special team guy.
John Harbaugh, special teams guy. Obviously, he had the last name. And people in the coaching community certainly knew that because of his dad and everything. But I cannot believe the favorability I see on this Grant Udinski. He might be the next great thing, but are we only saying this is the guy the Browns have to hire because you haven't seen him fail in any role, because he hasn't had any significant roles of leadership? I mean, he hasn't called the plays. McVay, people keep comparing him in the age and everything to McVay.
Right.
McVay had called plays and had been an offensive coordinator with all of the responsibility.
Right.
Not the case here. Very different.
And remember Andrew Berry when he was hired back from Philadelphia after a year away. I believe Andrew was 32 back in 2020. He was at the time the youngest chief football executive / GM, whatever, in the National Football League.
Sure.
This was a note that Adam Schefter posted this morning, which I found fascinating because, again, I said last segment, I feel like Barry's looking for his Sean McVay, right? Young, up-and-comer football genius, right? This is from Adam Schefter, and I thought this was pretty telling. At age 39, Rams head coach Sean McVay has now 10 postseason wins. That is double the number of postseason wins of any NFL head coach under the age of 40. We're talking John Madden, John Gruden, Mike Tomlin, and Zach Taylor each had 5 postseason wins before they turned 40. McVay is set to turn 40 on Saturday, a day before the NFC Championship. And look, that to me, that's the guy, right? And the running joke around the NFL, hey, if you've emptied Sean McVay's trash can, if you have gotten him coffee, you are immediately a candidate to be a head coach in the National Football League.
So I understand all of that, and what a valuable guy to be able to spend time with and to learn.
And they stuck with him, by the way. Remember, after winning the Super Bowl, the Rams fell off. They had to go through a little bit of a retool. And they got kicked in the teeth pretty good. And
they didn't have a first. They had one first-round pick in 9 years,
right?
Based on trading them and
right. And so for the folks that were, Andrew Berry didn't have a first-round pick for 3 years. Well, I don't know. Los Angeles Rams don't seem to struggle without them first-round picks. Just saying, back in the NFC Championship game again.
Well, McVay's clearly, if he's not the best coach in the NFL, he's on every list. He has to be 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
So, and here he is again. One game away. That game could have gone either way. The Bears had the ball at the 50-yard line.
They did.
In overtime and couldn't pull through. So a little bit of luck involved as well. But I just don't think that necessarily means that everybody under him, is going to work out as a head coach. And I just find it interesting that if it's a prospective coaching face-off.
Right.
Udinski versus, start naming them, Todd Monken. Udinski versus, give me another name.
Jesse Minter.
Udinski versus Shieldhouse. Udinski versus Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
Who, yes, people are noting is considered a minority candidate, but they had to get him in person to fulfill the requirements. Yes. And we'll get into I have some other Rooney Rule thoughts when we come back. We've got some people on the phone. Vince and Andre, just hang tight. We'll certainly get to you.
And I'll give you who I think my top 3 candidates are.
Yeah, I want to hear that from Daryl. Daryl's top 3 candidates. But in all those face-offs, at least according to the polling that we've seen online, it's Udinski every time. And I'm like, we're just liking him right now because we've never seen him. We don't have a bad note about him. Like, that's the only reason. You think all these other guys have bad notes on them, so for sure they have flaws, and you can't account for a flaw that he has. Well, I'll give you a flaw. He's never done anything like this. He's never had any responsibility. So training wheels, they're going to be on. You better have a damn good staff. And judging by some of the opinions over the weekend, you might lose Schwartz if he doesn't get the head coaching job. I don't know. Nick Wilson teed me up perfectly.
I don't know.
Totally agree with him. That's the reality. When it comes to if the Browns, and some people think that Grant Udinski is in the driver's seat, if I would have told you that halfway through the year, boom, Stefanski's out, you'd go, yay, at least a lot of you. And then if I told you, next head coach, Grant Udinski's never called a play in his life, boo. And now today, fans are clamoring for a guy they had never heard of 3 weeks ago. It is absolutely amazing, but I think it speaks to the psychology of how a lot of this works. Other existing coaches, they all have faults.
Yep.
Other coordinators, you can look at big games and say, yeah, well, that wasn't a good play call. I don't want him to be my head coach. Wait a minute.
You and Ken got all over me on Friday because I was just like, well, I don't know. And I don't have a favorite. I don't have a dog in the fight. Like, you guys, wait a minute. You can't do this right now. This is some serious slippery wizardry that's going on right now. Y'all were all over me on Friday. Oh, 40,000 people are listening to you right now for your opinion. Who's it going to be? Well, I don't know.
By the way, thanks, Ken, for first of all, I've seen the numbers. It's north of that. Come on. We actually have a pretty big show. But yeah, he jumped all over you for that on Friday. Daryl, your rebuttal.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so here's my top three. Here's what I think are going to be the top three
We said this before
candidates.
We went to break. Daryl Ryder, who is brought to us each and every week, his appearances on this show by Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. So you said your top three candidates, are these all guys that have interviewed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we do a power rank on this show. Now, we're a little short-staffed today, so the show might not sound like it typically sounds, but we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today. So power rank them, Daryl, your Browns coaching candidate list.
These are the three that I expect to be the finalists. I'm going to go with Rams pass game coordinator Nate Schwartz third.
Again, our fans had never heard of him, unless they're Iowa State fans or Illinois fans, because he played quarterback at Illinois.
Scroll through my X feed last week. I posted the video. The ESPN actually did a profile on him, I believe, in November. So I posted that video if you want to get to know just how Nate Schwartz takes the genius of Mike McVay and prepares it for game day. So or Sean McVay, I should say. He's number three. Dan Pitcher, I'm going to put him number two. I don't think he's out of it by any stretch of the imagination.
Another guy that Browns fans had not ever heard of halfway through the season.
I had James Rapine, our good friend from Bengals Talk, on the show yesterday. I made many a joke about him getting Zach Taylor coffee with cream and sugar, and James did not.
He didn't appreciate that.
Did not appreciate those jokes. But again, Dan Pitcher, I don't think he's out of it, and don't forget that name. And obviously, number one, it's the one that everyone seems to be zeroing in on. He's 30 years old. Jaguars offensive coordinator Grant Udinski. I think that it's going to be Udinski head coach, Jim Schwartz defensive coordinator, and assistant head coach, because Bubba Ventrone is not going to be here. I think Bubba Ventrone is going to end up at Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski, and good for him.
Which is unbelievable. Like, how in the world would Kevin want to tether himself to that? It makes no sense. The guy that he easily could have fired 2 weeks into the season last year.
But Bubba did finally break down and tell us that the reason special teams weren't very good was because of Andrew Berry.
Yeah, players suck.
He's working with what the front office gave him to work with.
All right, you heard Daryl's list, 216-474-0092. I noticed there was a name you did not include on that list, and that is the guy that I think you should take very seriously to be the next head coach of the Browns.
And who might that be?
Because you run the risk of losing him altogether, and that is Jim Schwartz.
They're interviewing him again today. They're taking him seriously. It's very serious. So Friday night, there was a lot of Jim Schwartz buzz. Phone was blowing up. Because usually when you get to the second interview, they really go into the deep dive. And basically part of that deep dive in the second interview is staffing. And I had heard that Schwartz was making contact with some folks around the league, trying to get some names together for potential staffing if he does get the job. Because that's part of this interview process. Okay, and this is the challenge for some of these young up-and-comers is they don't have the lineage, they don't have the Rolodex, and that was one of the questions I kept getting asked in Atlanta. Well, is Kevin Stefanski going to be able to put a staff together? What are you talking about? He's been a head coach for 6 years. He's swapped out special teams coordinators. He's swapped out defensive coordinators. He's swapped out offensive coordinators. He's swapped out position coaches. Yeah, I don't think Kevin Stefanski's going to have a hard time putting a staff together down there with the Atlanta Falcons, especially if they're keeping their existing defensive coordinators. So these young guys, when they go through the second interview process, they're going to have to present staffing. Well, Jim Schwartz, keeping him as defensive coordinator solves half the staffing problem because Schwartz is going to want to keep his staff in place. Now, Ephraim Banda, he has some interest as a defensive coordinator in a spot or two. But, for the most part, I think the defensive staff can stay in place. So that, I think, is all the more motivation, Anthony, to keep Schwartz in his current role as defensive coordinator. Give him
Daryl, be very interesting, though.
Give him a pay raise. Give him assistant
the title,
give him the assistant head coach title,
but if you interview him twice and he doesn't get the job, and remember, this time around, he finally got another interview.
In, I think, 2020, and he didn't get the job, and 3 years later, he came here to be the defensive coordinator.
I mean, if he makes a passionate plea for this job, and then the Browns go with some 30-year-old dude or what, you know what I mean? It's like, remember, he finally interviewed with somebody else. He interviewed with the Ravens.
Okay, I'm going to turn it around on you. What does Jim Schwartz do to build this offense and turn that whole thing around?
Well, I think
as an accomplished defensive coordinator,
obviously,
what are you going to do? Because your side of the ball is fine, Jim.
I know.
Top 5 defenses a couple of years, great. You turn Myles Garrett from an all-pro and perennial Pro Bowler into a future Hall of Famer.
Well, I've wondered. I think it's a great argument you make, Daryl, because I have
Denzel Ward, they don't even throw to his side of the field.
So half the field's cut off.
Carson Schlesinger is going to should be the defensive rookie of the year. Grant Delpit has turned into a really good
The trade they made
safety.
midseason was huge.
Tyson Campbell coming in here is trading Greg Newsome to Jacksonville for him. Greg, not so much.
They're great
with it.
And he's gotten the most of them. So, but what I'm saying is, I wonder, because if you're Jimmy Haslam and you're Andrew Berry and you're JW and you're sitting in on these
who's your quarterback
interviews,
coach, Jim?
Well, all of that he's going to have to articulate, but he's also got to be asked, hey,
who's your offensive line coach? Who's your receivers coach?
You're looking at it a pretty standard way. I'm telling you that why I might like Schwartz is I think Schwartz could tell you, hey, you've game planned against against Josh Allen, right? You've game planned against all these Caleb Williams. Where's Shedeur? Where's Shedeur rate on that? You see him every day. What would your defense do to Shedeur Sanders? I think that's valuable.
Send the house?
I'm just saying. I think just because he's a defensive coordinator, we forget he was a head coach.
Right.
He's been around the game his whole life. He game plans against all these offenses and makes them look pedestrian time and time again. Joe Burrow. He's made Joe Burrow look pedestrian time and time again. By
the way, Jim Schwartz is a head coach, 29 wins and
it wasn't
52
good.
losses.
It wasn't good. It was also so long ago that I wonder how much of that is applicable.
What was Kevin Stefanski's record with the Browns? And they fired him.
I know.
Again, I'm just playing. I'm not saying that they shouldn't hire Jim.
And there's not a huge track record of coaches that struggled in their first go-around that did really good in their second go-around. There just isn't a lot of evidence to support that.
And that's one of the issues here.
All right, I want to go to the phones here. Welcome in. We appreciate everybody that is waiting on hold, that is listening, that is watching on YouTube Live. I want to remind everybody that we have a giveaway, 9 o'clock, John Cougar Mellencamp. What a day. John Cougar Mellencamp at Blossom. You have a chance to win tickets at 9 o'clock. So get ready for that 1 hour and 50 minutes from now. Let's go to Andre in Cleveland. First of all, do you have a favorite right now for the next Browns head coach?
I want a strong head coach. I want somebody with a backbone.
Okay, so who is that? Of the 8 guys remaining, who is it?
They didn't interview Brian Flores. Doesn't seem like they have much interest in him.
Is that due to Schwartz being a defensive coach? He doesn't want to upset Schwartz.
They have interviewed
a
couple other defensive guys. Adden Dirty from the Seahawks, their defensive coordinator. Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator. So, and of course, obviously, Schwartzy. So, they've interviewed a couple of defensive guys.
Just drop a Schwartzy?
Yeah.
Like he's a baseball player?
May the Schwartz be with you.
Andre, so I get it. I get the sentiment because I think that's one of the things that we wondered about throughout his 6 years, like how strong of a leader, holding guys accountable. I mean, you see it with Mike Vrabel. My God. I mean, to a man, you see Mike Vrabel in the tunnel basically giving love to every single player as they're coming through, and they already swear by that guy, and he's only been there for how many months?
Right. How did we let Vrabel out of the building?
Well, that's
because he wasn't going to stab Kevin in the back.
Okay.
And would he have wanted this job? I mean, they had Drake May over there.
Yeah,
who had a decent. I mean, their team was bad.
Let's just put it this way: Vrabel came in to be a quote-unquote coaching consultant, and he was basically an assistant coach. He coached tight ends during the offseason, and then he ended up having to coach the offensive line during the season. Yeah. If you're Mike Vrabel, do you really want any part of that circus?
Yeah, Andre,
after having to do that.
Andre, you had a point about the Rooney Rule you wanted to get in?
Maybe I'm late, but could you tell me any candidates that were brought in under the Rooney Rule for interviews?
So you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh.
Okay.
I know a lot of people will chuckle. I'm pretty sure that Mike McDaniel qualifies as one of the candidates.
Right.
He does.
Okay.
He does.
Okay.
And right now, Nate Scheelhaase would be the second one. And that's why I said if you keep an eye open for a minority candidate potentially to come out of nowhere and interview this week in person, and that will then tell you the Browns have their guy. They're going to move forward with one of these candidates.
Andre, what a shame that is, right? To like, I know, guys, it's valuable to get the experience, but I think there are a lot of good things about the Rooney Rule, and I think the NFL definitely needed to start giving minorities opportunities.
I agree.
But the downside is the sham interview.
Right. It seems like it's just there to go through the motions. You're just going through the motions.
But thank you for the call.
While it is a sham interview, it is also an interview and exposes candidates that used to not be exposed.
Gets them on a radar.
Not just gets them on the radar, but going through the process so that them being on the radar, they then have gone through it. They know what to expect, and maybe they're able to get a
Remember,
get
it was
a job.
the yearly Turner Gill.
I know.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I actually, maybe it kind of sounds like I'm half joking, but I feel like the Browns of all teams should get special dispensation because I don't think the NFL would look at the Browns as a violator of this edict. I mean, they have had minority.
Eric Bieniemy, like every year he was getting.
Yeah, he was another one.
He was getting interviews, but
the
nobody would hire him.
The Browns are the one team, like, they've had African-American coaches. They've had African-American executives. They have also groomed other GMs to go elsewhere, to Minnesota.
They're one of the most diverse organizations in the NFL.
They've had women on coaching staffs. They've had women in front offices. Like, I feel like the NFL should be like, hey, that's awesome that we want to give opportunities and interviews, and the Browns have never fallen short there. So I feel like special dispensation. Like, I don't think they need to be the team to do the sham interview, is what I'm saying here.
They have been one of the more diverse organizations since the Haslam Sports Group took this franchise over in 2013.